Area of kites. A kite is kind of like a diamond shape where the diagonals are perpendicular. A diagonal is the distance from one corner to the opposite corner. So the two diagonals being perpendicular means where the two diagonals cross. Perpendicular means it makes a right angle or 90-degree angle. For the area of a kite, the formula would be 1/2 times d1 times d2. d1 is the length of the diagonal, so the distance from one corner to the other corner, times d2, which is the opposite diagonal, the distance from the other corner to the opposite corner. Multiplying by 1/2, again, is the same as dividing by 2. The first shape, again, is a kite shape where the diagonals cross and they make a 90-degree or right angle. To find the area, we want to multiply the two lengths, the two diagonal lengths. Going from left to right, the first part of the diagonal is 2 and the second part of the diagonal is 5. So the total distance, 2 and 5, would be 7. Multiplying by the opposite diagonal, in this case how tall the shape is. The first part of the diagonal is 3, the second part is also 3, so the total distance would be 6. Multiplying 7 times 6 would give us 42. And the last part you can multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2. 42 divided by 2 would be 21. And the units again, centimeters times centimeters, would be centimeters squared. So the area of the kite is 21 centimeters squared. The second shape and last shape for the section. Again, we have two diagonals making a right angle or perpendicular, so we can again multiply the two diagonals and then divide by 2. If we go from left to right, the first distance is 3, the second distance is 5, so the total distance would be 8. Multiplying the opposite diagonal, in this case is 4 and 4 again, so the total distance is also 8. 8 times 8 would be 64, and last part dividing by 2. 64 divided by 2 would be 32. And the units again are centimeters, so we'll have 32 centimeters squared for the area. Area of a rhombus. A rhombus is just like a kite with one extra definition. The diagonals are bisected. So again, similar to a diamond shape, the two diagonals crossing in the middle also make a right angle, and the new definition bisected means to cut in half, which means one side of one diagonal is equal to the opposite side of the other diagonal. In geometry, if you have the same hash marks, that means those sides are equal or congruent. And the other diagonal, which has two hash marks on both sides, which means the left-hand side is equal or the same as the right-hand side. The area of the rhombus is the same formula, 1/2 times the length of each diagonal. First question that we'll look at. The first rhombus, we're given two sides. The top half of the first diagonal is 4 inches, and the bottom half, or the left half of the second diagonal, is 5 inches. If you know the top side is 4 inches of a rhombus, that means the bottom half of that same diagonal is also 4 inches. And if the left-hand side of one diagonal is 5 inches, Since they're equal or bisected, the right-hand side is also 5 inches. Finding the lengths of the diagonals, going from top to bottom, if it's 4 and 4, that would be a distance of 8. And multiplying by the diagonal going left to right, 5 and 5 would be a distance of 10. Multiplying, 8 times 10 would be 80. And the formula again, multiplying by 1/2 or dividing by 2 would give us the answer of 40. Each of these again are inches. Multiplying inches times inches, the answer would be inches squared. 40 inches squared. Second question, and last question for the section. The next rhombus, again, 2 sides are given. The top half of the diagonal is 7 centimeters, and the left-hand side of the diagonal is 3 centimeters. Again, if the top is 7, being bisected means the bottom will also be 7, and if the left-hand side is 3, that means the right-hand side is also 3. Finding the distances from top to bottom, 7 and 7 would be a distance of 14. And multiplying by the opposite diagonal, which again is 3 and 3, a total distance of 6. We can multiply 14 times 6. 4 times 6 would be 24. Carry the 2. 6 times 1 plus 2 more would be 84. And the last part of the formula, divide by 2. 84 divided by 2 would be 41. And the units again are centimeters. Multiplying centimeters times centimeters would be 41 centimeters squared for the area of the rhombus. Title of the last section is More Rhombus Questions. Looking at the given rhombus, we know the left-hand side diagonal is 8 inches, and one of the outside lengths is 10 inches. Using what we know about rhombuses, if the left-hand side is 8 inches, that means the right-hand side is congruent or the same, which is also 8 inches. Also, a rhombus, just like a kite, makes a 90-degree angle in the middle. So if we want to, we can add a box to represent the 90-degree angle. To solve this question, we need the distance of the diagonal going top and bottom. If you look at the right-hand side of the rhombus, we know the outside length is 10, and we know one side is 8, but we do not know what the other side is. But if you're looking at the shape that is now made as a triangle shape, it is also a right triangle. A right triangle shape, we can use Pythagorean Theorem, which we did in a previous section. Anytime you have a triangle with a right angle, you can use Pythagorean Theorem, which again is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to find a missing side of the triangle. The missing side, one of the legs, we can let be a, so a squared would stay the same. B squared is the other side of the triangle that touches the right angle. In this case would be 8. 8 squared would be 64. And C is the hypotenuse, or longest side, which is across from the right angle. In this case is 10, or 10 squared would be 100. Solving for A, we can subtract 64 on both sides. So A squared equals 100 minus 64 would be 36. And taking the square root on both sides, the value of A would be 6. A again is the last side of the triangle, so if we add a 6 to our diagram of the rhombus, the top half of the diagonal is 6, And since it is a rhombus, the bottom half of the diagonal is the same side, which would also be 6. To find the area again of the rhombus, the two lengths, the diagonals going left to right, 8 and 8, would be a distance of 16. And the diagonal going top and bottom that we found was a distance of 6 and 6, which would be a distance of 12. Multiplying those two diagonals, 16 times 12. 6 times 2 would be 12. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 plus 1 more would be 3. Adding the 0 and multiplying 1 by 6 and 1 times 1. Adding straight down, we'll have 192. 192 is not the answer to the question. Again, that's the diagonals being multiplied together. The last step for the rhombus is to multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2. Using long division, 192 we can put on the inside of the division symbol, dividing by 2 on the outside. 2 goes into 19, 9 times. 9 times 2 would be 18. Subtracting and bringing the 2 down. 2 goes into 12 6 times. Multiplying, there's no remainder. So the answer to the question would be 96. Looking back at the original diagram, the units were in inches, so the answer would be 96 inches squared.